Welcome to Module 1.7, Speaking Test Part 1. Asking a few questions in this class. Firstly, how are you doing? We'll be asking whether we should memorize answers, whether that's a good idea. We'll be talking about being coherent. Let's be coherent. We'll be looking more at the approach, how we can talk about familiar things, familiar language to us. And then finally, it will be your turn again to do some practice. Once you've learned a few things, let's put it into practice. Okay, let's start off with the first idea then. How are you doing? I would basically like to ask you that after every class, to be honest. And I'm hoping that you're getting a lot out of this self-study by actually recognizing the benefit of self-study. To make the most of it, you really need to be making notes and writing down words, and if I was walking around our class, then I would be able to see you're doing that. So hopefully you are doing that, making sure that you're writing down the words that are important to you. Some words and some ideas will be far more important to you, and you should be making notes. Yep, study like we're in class. I won't be telling you everything that's important to write down like you might get in a class, because some of the things you'll find important while other students will find other things important. So bear that in mind and realize that these things are important to you if they are something you need to learn. Okay, moving on to, should we memorize answers? Well, I would strongly recommend you do not memorize answers. I don't give you long model answers to copy. I don't recommend you memorize other people's model answers. They might be model answers, they might not be, but they're not the answers you should be giving, and the examiner will probably recognize that you're just reciting words that you don't really understand very well, or you're just giving these memorized answers, and therefore give you a lower score. So don't waste your time doing that. Learn words, learn phrases, learn idioms if you need to. Okay, let's have a look at being coherent. So we're talking about our daily routine and using some basic simple English. There are 8 different things here, 8 different little parts of speech. I woke up, I took a shower, I left my apartment. So let's arrange those 8 into an order. Just you can do that very quickly. You might have to change some of the language here to make it into the proper tense that it all should be in. Okay. Okay, so did you get your order right? Let's have a quick look at what the order should be, shall we? Something like this. I woke up, I brushed my teeth, I took a shower, I put on my clothes. Obviously you can brush your teeth later or before, but not before getting up. I put on my clothes, I left my apartment, rode my bike to work, I got to work. Hopefully you got something like that. Okay, so you might get this question, where do you live? And you might give a nice little answer here. Now, how is this not coherent? I live in an Elizabethan house that has many individually designed windows and doors. Our street runs perpendicular to the park, to the local park. Okay, so this is an answer a student gave. Now, does this fit with the next answer that they give? Where is the problem? That's what you're listening for or reading for. Okay, so let's have a look at the next question. Have you lived there for a long time? No, not really. The house was built 3 years ago, and we moved in when it was built. Go back and check the first question if you need to, just to check the answer. What's the problem? Why is this not coherent? Okay, it's not a big deal, but you can see here, this is an Elizabethan house. And the first answer, they said I live in an Elizabethan house. So the problem wasn't with the word perpendicular. That was fine. It was just it wasn't coherent with the next comment about it being 3 years old. Okay, so it's little things like that you just need to have running through all of your answers and not just in one answer, maintaining the coherence. Great, so now we're looking again at the approach and the basic reality that you need to add different views together. You need to add different parts to have a comprehensive and professional way to approach the test. So you have different parts to your approach. Getting a 6.5 or 7 does require a steady approach, and this gives us a much more professional attitude and doesn't just hope that we get the right question. Obviously we need to answer the question, but if we can talk about the familiar, we can use some of the familiar in our answer. It will increase our answer dramatically because it will help us juggle flexibly, help us to use language in a flexible way. So the question for you is, how are you at changing the tenses? Can you change a certain situation from the past to the present to the future? Is that something you find easy to do? Well, let's practice it, just to give you some practice in doing that. Let's also focus on the coherence. Make things orderly. So if you're going to be talking about something, make sure you continue talking about that in that same way. Also, you can make things orderly by organizing the language. Firstly, this idea, secondly, this idea, and lastly, this. And make sure you are able to change the past to the present to the future. Okay, that's something we'll practice closely later. And this last sentence is for you to complete. If we hadn't have done that, we would have. That's very complex, isn't it? If we hadn't have done that, we would have. So there's a few ways to answer that. We'll check back in on that answer later. Okay, get ready to speak. So please, number 1, record yourself. Try and answer every question as quickly as possible, and then maybe go back and try and answer again using the words provided. Or if you're feeling really good, just skip to number 3. Try and answer every question you can with the words provided. Hit pause and then move on to the next one. Good luck! How long have you lived in your home? Will you live there for a long time? Which room do you spend most of your time in? How would you change your home if you could? Good job, hope that went well. Now, why don't you go back to 6:48 and try that one more time? Up to you, or I'll see you in the next class. Well done for completing this one. Before we go though, let's have a look how you did. So how did you do? We had this sentence to complete a few minutes ago. If we hadn't have done that, we would have. What did you put? You could have really either of these types of past perfect styles if you like. If we hadn't have done that, we would have had to do something else, or we would have had to have done something else. There are a few other little options. We would have to do something else, you might say, but had to have done something else or had to have done something else is probably the best. Alright, that's tough stuff. Well done if you did that. Good job. Well done for completing that class. On to 1.8, and in the next class we're going to look at the psychology of the test, thinking the right way about IELTS, learning a little bit more about what the examiner's actually thinking, and how by knowing that we can take the test and do it right the first time or the next time. Excellent. See you in the next class.